The cruiser shook violently as plasma fire tore through its starboard hull. Captain Derek Hayes gripped the control yoke, sweat streaming down his face as alarms screamed through the cockpit. 3 Kryn interceptors were closing fast, their weapons charging for another volley. "All hands, brace for evasive maneuvers," Derek barked into the comm. He threw the ship into a spiraling dive that would have snapped the spine of any other species. Humans called it the Kepler roll. The galaxy called it insanity. The interceptors followed, but Derek was already pulling up, reversing thrust at velocities that turned his vision red at the edges. 2 of the Kryn ships collided in a brilliant flash of emerald fire. The third veered off, buying him precious seconds. "Hull breach on decks 4 and 5, his co-pilot shouted. "We're venting atmosphere." Derek didn't answer. His hands moved across the controls with mechanical precision, redirecting power from life support to engines. The ship lurched forward, pushing toward the debris field ahead. If he could lose them in the wreckage of the old battlefield, they might survive the next 5 minutes. The Kryn weren't giving up. Their warship, a massive dreadnought bristling with weapons, appeared on his scanner. It was launching fighters, dozens of them. "We're not making it out of this one," the co-pilot said quietly. Derek's jaw tightened. "Watch me." He dove into the debris field at full burn, threading the needle between shattered hull plates and frozen corpses from a war fought decades ago. The fighters followed, but they were cautious. Careful, that was their mistake. Humans didn't do careful when death was breathing down their necks. A fighter exploded against a chunk of dead satellite. Another misjudged its approach and sheared off its wing. Derek kept pushing, kept weaving, his reflexes operating on pure instinct and adrenaline. Then he saw it, a gap in the debris opening into clear space. Beyond it, the shimmer of a jump gate. If he could reach it before the dreadnought got a firing solution, they'd live. He punched the throttle to maximum. The ship screamed in protest, metal groaning, but it held. They burst from the debris field like a bullet from a gun. The dreadnought fired. A lance of white-hot energy tore through space, missing them by meters. Derek felt the heat wash over the hull. "Jump gate in 10 seconds, the co-pilot counted down. The Kryn dreadnought was charging another shot. Derek could see it on his display, the weapons capacitors glowing like miniature suns. 5 seconds. The energy beam fired. "Jumping now!" Reality twisted. The beam passed through the space where they'd been a microsecond before. Then they were gone, hurtling through jump space, and Derek finally allowed himself to breathe. They'd survived. Somehow, impossibly, they'd survived. But in the command deck of the Kryn dreadnought, someone else was breathing too. Commander Zara stood motionless, her violet eyes fixed on the empty space where the human ship had vanished. Her warriors reported damage, casualties, failure. She heard none of it. Her twin hearts were pounding with something she'd never felt before. The _alien _woman _warrior _fell _in _love _with _the _human _pilot _first _sight.tx. Derek's ship limped into Frontier Station Osiris, 3 hours later, trailing smoke and sparking from a dozen hull breaches. The docking bay crew scattered as he brought the wounded cruiser down hard, landing gear shrieking against the deck plates. "That was the worst flying I've ever seen," the docking chief said over the comm. "And I've been here 20 years. Derek popped the canopy and climbed out, legs shaking from adrenaline withdrawal. "Yeah, but I'm alive. That makes it the best flying you've ever seen." He didn't make it 10 steps before the debrief team surrounded him. Intelligence officers, military brass, all demanding to know how a single light cruiser had survived an encounter with a Kryn battle group. Derek told them the truth. He got lucky. He got crazy. He did what humans do. They didn't seem satisfied, but they let him go. After 2 hours of questioning, all he wanted was sleep. He never made it to his quarters. The station's alert system wailed to life, red emergency lights flooding the corridors. Derek's communicator crackled. All combat personnel to stations. We have an unidentified vessel approaching. It's broadcasting Kryn's signatures. Derek's blood went cold. They'd followed him through the jump. Somehow, they'd tracked him. He sprinted toward the hangar bay, where mechanics were already scrambling to prep fighters. But when he reached the observation deck, what he saw stopped him dead. A single Kryn shuttle was approaching the station. Not a warship, not a fighter wing, just one small craft broadcasting a white flag protocol in a dozen languages. "This is insane," the station commander muttered beside him. "The Kryn don't surrender. They don't negotiate. They certainly don't come alone." The shuttle requested docking permission. After 20 minutes of heated debate, the commander granted it. Marines lined the docking bay, weapons raised. As the airlock cycled open, one figure emerged. She was tall, easily 7 feet, with skin that shimmered like polished obsidian and eyes that glowed violet in the station's harsh lighting. She wore ceremonial armor, not battle gear, and her hands were raised, empty of weapons. Commander Zara of the Kryn Imperial Fleet stepped onto human soil for the first time in her life. "I request audience with the pilot," she said in perfect English, her voice like distant thunder. "The one who flew through the debris field, the one called Derek Hayes." The Marines looked at each other. The station commander looked ready to refuse. But Derek, against every instinct screaming in his head, stepped forward. "I'm Hayes." Zara's eyes locked onto his. For a moment, the entire bay seemed to hold its breath. Then she did something no Kryn warrior had ever done in recorded history. She knelt. "I come bearing a challenge of honor," she said, her gaze never leaving his. "You have bested me in combat. You have shown courage beyond measure. By the old laws of my people, I claim the right of Talshara, the bonding hunt." "The what?" Derek asked. "A ritual," the station's xenobiologist whispered urgently from somewhere behind him. "Ancient Kryn tradition. When a warrior is defeated by superior skill, they can challenge their victor to a partnered hunt. If successful, the two become bound as equals. It hasn't been practiced in centuries." "I don't understand," Derek said, still staring at the kneeling warrior. "You're saying you want to go hunting with me?" "I am saying," Zara replied, rising to her full height, "that you are the first being in 300 cycles to make my hearts beat with something other than rage. You fly like the storm wings of my homeworld. You think like a predator. You survive like the unkillable." She stepped closer. The Marines tensed, but she ignored them. "I am saying, Derek Hayes, that when I saw you dance with death itself and emerge victorious, something in me awakened. My people have a word for it. Your people might call it fate." Derek's mouth went dry. "You tracked me across the galaxy to tell me you're impressed?" "I tracked you across the galaxy," Zara said, her voice dropping to something almost gentle, "because I have never felt this before, because I watched you refuse to die. And I realized I wanted to know what that feels like, to fight beside someone instead of against them, to hunt with someone who understands that survival is an art." She extended her hand, clawed finger spread wide. "The Talshara awaits, human. If you accept, we hunt together on the moon below. We face the trials. And if we survive, we are bound. And if I refuse," Zara's expression didn't change, "then I return to my ship. We remain enemies, and the next time we meet, one of us will die." Derek looked at the hand extended before him, at the alien warrior who'd crossed enemy lines for reasons he couldn't fully comprehend, at the choice that would change everything. He reached out and clasped her hand. "When do we start?" The underscore alien underscore woman underscore warrior underscore fell underscore in underscore love underscore with underscore the underscore human underscore pilot underscore first underscore site.txt. The moon of Osiris's 7 was a hellscape of jagged volcanic rock and toxic geysers that erupted without warning. Perfect, according to Zara. For the Tal Shara, the station commander had tried to stop them. Command had threatened court-martial. Derek went anyway. They stood at the edge of a crater rim as twin suns set across the horizon, casting everything in shades of crimson and gold. Zara had changed from ceremonial armor into something lighter, scaled plating that moved like liquid metal. Derek wore his flight suit and carried a plasma rifle he barely knew how to use. The trial is simple, Zara explained, her eyes scanning the wasteland below. We hunt the apex predator of this world, the stoneworm. We bring back proof of the kill. We do it together, or we don't do it at all. Stoneworm, Derek repeated. Let me guess. Giant, extremely deadly. Probably wants to eat us? 20 meters long. Armored hide that deflects most energy weapons. Hunts by seismic vibration. Yes, it will absolutely try to eat us. Zara looked at him, something like excitement flickering across her alien features. Your people have a saying about this being fun. We really don't say that about things that want to eat us. Then your people lie to themselves. She started down the crater slope, moving with predatory grace. Come, pilot, show me if your ground skills match your flying. They descended into hell together. The first hour was brutal. The terrain shifted beneath their feet, unstable volcanic soil that gave way without warning. Derek fell twice, catching himself on razor-sharp obsidian formations that sliced through his gloves. Zara moved like she'd been born to this, but even she struggled when a geyser erupted 50 meters ahead, showering them with scalding mineral water. There, Zara said suddenly, dropping to a crouch. She pointed at the ground where massive parallel grooves scarred the rock. Worm sign, fresh. It passed through here within the hour. Derek knelt beside her, studying the marks. They were each as wide as his arm, gouged deep into solid stone. Whatever made them was unimaginably powerful. How do we kill something that can do this? We don't kill it with strength, Zara said. We kill it with cunning, with speed, with the willingness to take risks that would terrify sane beings. She looked at him, her violet eyes intense. We kill it the way you killed my ships, by being unpredictable. They followed the trail deeper into the crater, where the heat grew oppressive and the air shimmered with toxic fumes. Derek's suit filtered most of it, but every breath burned. Zara seemed unbothered. Her physiology adapted to far worse environments. The ground trembled. It knows we're here, Zara whispered. She drew 2 curved blades from her back, each one etched with glowing symbols. When it surfaces, aim for the throat segment, 3rd section down from the head. It's the only vulnerable point. When it surfaces? You mean it's underground right now? The trembling intensified. Rocks began to skip and dance across the ground. Derek raised his rifle, heart hammering, spinning in a circle as he tried to guess where the attack would come from. Derek, Zara said calmly, do you trust me? I literally just met you. Then learn quickly. The ground exploded 20 meters to their left. The stone worm erupted from below in a shower of rock and magma, its segmented body coiling upward like a nightmare-made flesh. Its head was all gnashing mandibles and clusters of black eyes. It screamed, a sound that vibrated through Derek's bones. Zara moved. She sprinted directly toward the creature, her blades flashing. The worm struck at her like a snake, mandibles wide enough to swallow her whole. At the last second, she slid beneath its strike, her blades carving twin lines across its underbelly. The creature roared in pain and fury. It twisted, coming for her again. Derek, now! He didn't think. Thinking would have meant hesitation, and hesitation meant death. He ran perpendicular to Zara's position, firing his rifle in controlled bursts at the worm's head. The shots ricocheted off its armor, but they had the desired effect. The creature's attention split between them. "That's it!" Zara shouted, her voice filled with something that sounded like joy. "Make it choose! Make it uncertain!" They moved like dancers in a deadly ballet, Derek drawing fire from one side while Zara struck from another, then reversing, keeping the massive predator off balance. It was the debris field all over again. Chaos turned into strategy. Panic turned into precision. The Wyrm lunged at Derek. He dove behind a boulder, felt the impact as tons of armored flesh smashed where he'd been standing. He rolled, came up firing, and saw his opening, the throat segment. Third down, exposed as the creature reared back for another strike. "Zara, break left!" She understood instantly, peeling away as Derek unloaded everything his rifle had into that vulnerable point. The worm's scream turned into a gurgling roar. It thrashed, ichor spraying from the wound. Zara leaped onto its back, climbing with impossible speed, driving her blades deep into the gap Derek had created. She twisted them, pushed deeper, and the stone worm's movements became spasms. Then it fell. The impact shook the ground like an earthquake. Derek stumbled, caught himself, and stared at the massive corpse. They'd done it. Against all logic and reason, they'd actually done it. Zara stood atop the fallen creature, breathing hard, ichor dripping from her blades. She looked down at Derek, and slowly, carefully, she smiled. It was a terrifying expression on her alien face, all sharp teeth and predatory satisfaction. "You fight well for someone who claims his people don't enjoy this." Derek found himself smiling back. "Maybe I've been hanging around the wrong people." The _alien_woman_score_well_score_with_the_first_sight txt. They made camp in a sheltered cave formation, the stone worm's severed head serving as proof of their victory. Zara had insisted on taking it, despite Derek's protests about the smell. Now it sat outside their shelter, mandibles frozen in a permanent snarl. The temperature plummeted as night fell. Derek activated the thermal generator from his emergency pack, while Zara built a fire using some chemical compound that burned blue and gave off surprising heat. They sat across from each other, the flames casting dancing shadows on the cave walls. "Tell me about your world," Zara said suddenly. She was cleaning her blades with methodical precision, but her eyes were on him. "I have studied your species tactically, but I want to know what makes a human choose to fly into certain death," with a smile on his face. Derek leaned back against the cave wall. "We're stubborn. Maybe that's it. We've been the underdog since we joined the galactic community. Weaker than most species, slower, more fragile. So we compensate by being too crazy to quit. That is not an answer. That is propaganda." Zara set her blades aside. "Why do you fly, Derek Hayes?" He was quiet for a moment, watching the blue flames flicker. "My brother, he was a pilot too. Better than me, actually. Faster reflexes, sharper instincts. He died 3 years ago during a Kryn raid on the colony where we grew up." Zara's expression shifted, something unreadable crossing her features. "I see. Yeah. So when your ships showed up today, part of me wanted to run. Part of me wanted revenge. But mostly, I just wanted to prove I could survive what he couldn't. That maybe his death taught me something about staying alive when everything says you should be dead. Your brother would be proud of how you fly. Maybe, or maybe he'd tell me I'm an idiot for accepting a death hunt with an enemy warrior." Derek met her gaze. "Why did you really come, Zara? And don't give me that ritual answer. Nobody crosses battle lines for tradition." Zara was silent for a long time. When she spoke, her voice was softer than he'd heard before. "My people believe that warriors are born, not made. That some of us carry the essence of the storm, the fury that drives us to fight and conquer. For 300 cycles, I have been the perfect Kryn warrior. Undefeated, merciless, empty. She looked at the fire, her violet eyes reflecting the blue flames. Then I watched you fly. I watched you take impossible odds and turn them into victory through sheer will and madness. And for the first time since I could remember, I felt something beyond the need to destroy. I felt wonder, admiration, the desire to understand how someone so fragile could be so unbreakable. So you fell in love with my flying? I fell in love with your refusal to accept death. Zara's gaze returned to his. Among my people, that is the highest form of beauty, to stare into the abyss and laugh. You did that today, and you did it again when you accepted my challenge. No hesitation, no fear overwhelming your decision. Derek felt heat that had nothing to do with the fire. Your people have a weird definition of romance? Perhaps. But can you tell me I'm wrong? Can you say you feel nothing when we fight together, when we move as one against a threat that should end us both? He couldn't. That was the problem. Somewhere between the Wareham hunt and this moment, something had shifted. The adrenaline bond, maybe. The shared survival instinct. Or maybe something deeper that he didn't want to examine too closely. This is complicated, he said finally. War is complicated. This is simple. Zara rose, moving to sit beside him instead of across. Up close, he could see the faint scars along her neck, the way her skin seemed to shift colors in the firelight. I am not asking you to love me, Derek Hayes. I am asking you to consider that perhaps enemies can become something else when they choose to. Your people are still at war with mine. Yes. And that will not change tonight. But we are not our people. We are two warriors who chose to hunt together, who chose to trust each other with our lives. She extended her hand, palm up. The Tal Shara is not just about the kill. It is about what comes after. The bond, the understanding that some connections transcend politics and borders. Derek looked at her hand, at the clawed fingers that had torn through the worm with lethal precision, at the being who had crossed enemy lines because she felt something she couldn't ignore. He placed his hand in hers. Her skin was warm, almost hot, and her grip was gentle despite the obvious strength. So what happens now, he asked. Now we return to the station. I present the worm's head as proof. The Tal Shara is complete. By the old laws, we are bonded as equals. What that means, we decide together. Your people won't like this. My people exiled the old ways centuries ago. They have no say in what I choose to honor. Zara's grip tightened slightly. And yours? They'll probably try to arrest you the second we land. Then we will cross that bridge when we reach it. Together. She smiled again, that fierce expression that was becoming familiar. You humans have another saying, about tomorrow's problems. We'll burn that bridge when we come to it? Yes, that one. I like it very much. They sat in the cave as the night deepened, hands still clasped, watching the blue fire burn. Outside, the toxic moon of Osiris 7 continued its deadly rotation. Inside, two warriors from opposite sides of a war sat in companionable silence, contemplating a future neither could have predicted. Somewhere above, on the station, alarms would be sounding, command would be panicking, protocol would be shattering. Derek found he didn't care. For the first time since his brother died, he felt something other than survivor's guilt and hollow victory. He felt alive. The _alien _woman _warrior _fell _web _with _the _human _pilot _first _site.txt. The station's docking bay erupted into chaos when their shuttle returned. Marines formed a perimeter the moment the airlock opened. Officers shouted conflicting orders. Someone activated the containment protocols, dropping energy barriers that hummed with lethal voltage. Derek and Zara walked through it all like they owned the place. The stoneworm's head suspended between them on an anti-gravity sled. "Stand down," Derek called out. "The hunt is complete. The Tal Shara is witnessed. You're both under arrest," the station commander barked, flanked by security forces. "Hayes, you left this station without authorization and fraternized with an enemy combatant. Commander Zara, you're a prisoner of war. As of this moment," Zara's laugh was low and dangerous. "I am prisoner of nothing, human. I came under diplomatic immunity and I leave the same way. The Tal Shara is sacred law, older than your species has been spacefaring. You have no authority over it. We have authority over our own personnel," the commander shot back. "Hayes, step away from the Kryn." Derek didn't move. "With respect, sir, no. The bond is complete. By accepting the Tal Shara, I became something your regulations don't account for. Neither human military nor Kryn fleet can touch what we've created." The standoff stretched tight as a wire. Then a new voice cut through the tension. "Stand down, Commander. All of you." Admiral Patricia Grant walked into the bay, her uniform immaculate despite the late hour. She was legendary in the fleet, the woman who'd held the line at the Battle of Proxima Gate when everyone else said retreat. Her word was law. She studied Derek and Zara with eyes that missed nothing. "Explain!" Quickly, Derek did, laying out everything from the initial encounter to the hunt to the bond. Grant listened without interruption, her expression unreadable. When he finished, she turned to Zara. "And you expect us to just let you walk out of here? Back to your fleet with complete intelligence on our defensive positions?" "I expect nothing," Zara replied, "but I offer something. Information for information. Safe passage for truth." "What truth?" "The reason my fleet has been pressing your borders so aggressively these past months. The reason we've been probing your defenses with increasing frequency." Zara's expression hardened. "We're not preparing to invade your territory, Admiral. We're running from something far worse." The bay went dead silent. Grant stepped closer. "Explain." 3 sectors beyond Kryn space, something is consuming worlds, not conquering them, consuming them. Entire planets stripped to bedrock within days. No communication, no survivors, no pattern we can identify. Zara's voice remained steady, but Derek could see the tension in her shoulders. "My fleet has lost 17 colony worlds in 6 months. We've been pushed into this region of space because we have nowhere else to go." "Why didn't you ask for help?" Derek demanded. "Why keep attacking us?" "Because my people's pride is exceeded only by their stupidity. Because admitting we face extinction would mean admitting we're not the apex predators we've always believed ourselves to be." Zara looked at Grant. "But I am done with pride. I have seen what happens when warriors refuse to adapt." Derek showed me another way. Grant's jaw tightened. "You're saying there's something out there that scares the Kryn Empire, the same empire that's been the nightmare of every human colony for 20 years. Yes, yes, and it's moving toward your space next. The trajectory is clear. Whatever this force is, it will reach human territory within 4 months, perhaps sooner." The Admiral was quiet for a long moment. Then she pulled out her communicator. "Get me Joint Command, Priority Alpha. We have a situation." She looked back at Derek and Zara. "You two stay right here. Don't move. Don't breathe wrong. We're going to verify this information. And if you're lying, Commander Zara, there won't be enough of you left for your fleet to identify." "I do not lie about extinction-level threats, Admiral. That would be counterproductive to survival." Grant almost smiled. "I'm starting to see why Hayes likes you." She turned to leave, then paused. "For what it's worth, Captain Hayes, that was either the bravest or stupidest thing anyone's done on my watch. I haven't decided which yet." The next 6 hours were a blur of interrogations, scans, and verification protocols. Zara provided stellar coordinates, battle data, fragmentary reports from Kryn scout ships. Command fed it all into their analysis computers, cross-referencing with their own intelligence. The results came back positive. There were gaps in the data, dark spots where Kryn colonies had simply gone silent, unexplained gravitational anomalies, energy signatures that matched nothing in any known database. Something was out there, something that had the Kryn Empire terrified. Derek found Zara in an observation lounge, staring out at the stars. They'd given her limited freedom after the intel checked out, though armed guards stood discreetly nearby. "Your admiral believes me," Zara said without turning. "I can see it in how the station has shifted to emergency protocols. They're preparing for war. The wrong war, maybe. If what you're saying is true, humans and Kryn fighting each other is exactly what this thing wants. Divide and conquer, yes. Which is why I proposed an alliance." Zara finally looked at him. Joint task force, combined fleet, human adaptability and Kryn strength working together instead of destroying each other. Derek felt something twist in his chest. They'll never go for it. Too much history, too much blood, perhaps. But they might go for something smaller, a pilot program, as your people say. Zara's smile was sharp. A single ship, crew split between both species. Mission to investigate the threat and report back. Prove that cooperation is possible. You volunteered us, didn't you? I volunteered myself. I suspect you will volunteer yourself because you are incapable of watching others fly into danger while you stay safe. She moved closer. Am I wrong, Derek Hayes? He wasn't. That was the problem. The idea of sending anyone else to face an unknown threat while he sat on the sidelines made his skin crawl. When do we leave? 3 days, if your command approves the mission. If mine doesn't execute me for treason first. Zara reached out, her hand finding his. This will be more dangerous than the stone worm. We may not survive. Probably won't survive, Derek corrected. But that's never stopped me before. No, it hasn't. Zara's expression softened into something almost tender. That is why I chose well when I crossed enemy lines. You understand that survival and glory are not opposing concepts, that sometimes the bravest thing is to build bridges instead of burning them. Derek squeezed her hand. We're really doing this. Humans and Kryn, together. We already did it when we hunted the worm. This is simply a larger hunt with higher stakes. She pulled him closer until they were inches apart. And when it's done, when we've faced the darkness and emerged victorious, perhaps our peoples will finally understand what we already know. What's that? That the galaxy is too full of threats to waste time fighting each other, that warriors are strongest when they choose their battles wisely, that love and respect can exist even between enemies. Her violet eyes held his, that humans are magnificent. Derek felt his breath catch. Is that what this is? Love? I am still learning what that word means in your language. But if it means wanting to fight beside someone until the stars burn out, then yes, I believe it is. Outside the viewport, the stars burned cold and distant. Somewhere out there, an unknowable threat was consuming worlds. War was coming, whether they wanted it or not. But for this moment, in this observation lounge, 2 warriors from opposite sides of a conflict held each other and contemplated a future where the impossible became real, where enemies became partners, where love was forged in fire and sealed with trust, where humanity and the Kryn learned to say we instead of us versus them. It started with a pilot who refused to die and a warrior who refused to accept that battle was all she could be. It would end with them facing the darkness together. The _alien _woman _warrior _fell _in _love _with _the _human _pilot HFY_first_sight.txt. The ship was called Unity, though the crew had darker names for it. Death Trap, Suicide Run, The Last Mistake. It was a hybrid design. Human engineering merged with Kryn weapon systems, crewed by 12 volunteers who spoke different languages and trusted each other exactly as far as necessary. Derek captained from the pilot's chair. Zara commanded tactical. Between them, an uneasy peace held together by shared purpose and the understanding that failure meant extinction. They'd been in dark space for 11 days, following the trail of consumed worlds deeper into territory that no longer appeared on any map. The silence was oppressive. No distress signals, no debris fields, just empty systems where planets should have been. Contact, their sensor officer called out. Human, named Lisa Chen. She'd lost family to Kryn raids. Now she worked beside them. Dead ahead. Single object. Mass readings are impossible. The scanners keep contradicting themselves. Derek brought the ship around carefully. Through the viewport, something vast emerged from the darkness. It wasn't a ship. It wasn't a station. It was geometry that hurt to perceive, angles that bent in directions space shouldn't allow, a structure that seemed to exist in more dimensions than Derek's mind could process. What are we looking at? He whispered. Entropy made manifest, Zara said quietly. The end of all things given form and purpose. As they watched, the structure extended something like tendrils toward a nearby moon. Where they touched, matter simply ceased. Not destroyed, not consumed, erased. The moon unraveled like a thread being pulled from reality's fabric. We need to report this, Lisa said, her voice shaking. Command has to know. They won't believe it without proof, Derek replied. We need data. Scans, something concrete. Getting closer to that thing is suicide. Then we make it quick suicide instead of slow. Derek's hands moved across the controls. Zara, can your weapons damage it? Unknown, but I am willing to discover the answer. She armed every system they had. On your mark, pilot. Derek pushed the throttle forward. Unity leaped ahead, racing toward the impossible structure. Alarms screamed as proximity sensors registered threats his eyes couldn't see. Reality itself seemed to warp around them. Weapons range in 10 seconds. Zara counted down. Her claws danced across tactical displays, targeting primary mass concentration. Firing. Energy beams lanced out, striking the structure dead center. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the thing noticed them. The response was instant and terrible. Tendrils whipped toward Unity with speed that defied physics. Derek threw the ship into evasive maneuvers. But these weren't Kryn interceptors. These were the fingers of something that existed beyond normal space. It's adapting, Lisa shouted. Every shot we take, it learns. It's becoming immune. A tendril grazed their port side. Metal screamed. The hull didn't breach. It simply stopped being hull. A 5-meter section of the ship transformed into something else, into crystalline formations that grew and spread like cancer. Seal that section, Derek barked. Vent it if you have to. The crew scrambled. Bulkheads slammed shut. But the crystalline growth was spreading through the ship's systems, rewriting matter at the molecular level. We can't fight this, someone said. Kryn warrior named Vex. His voice held something Derek had never heard from their species before. Fear. We need to run. Running means it follows us home, Zara said. Her hands never stopped working. We end this here, or we doom both our worlds. Derek saw it then. The only play, the desperate gamble that would either save everything or kill them all, probably both. Zara, overload the reactor, set it for maximum yield. She understood immediately. A suicide run. You plan to detonate us inside that structure. I plan to teach that thing what humans do when we're cornered. We take our enemies with us. He looked at her across the command deck. Together, Zara's smile was fierce and terrible and beautiful. Together, always, she began the overload sequence. The rest of the crew had seconds to choose. Stay and die with purpose, or take the escape pods and live with the knowledge they'd abandoned the fight. Every single one of them stayed. Derek aimed Unity directly at the structure's core. The ship accelerated, reactor building toward critical mass. The entity's tendrils converged, trying to stop them, but Derek flew like he'd never flown before, weaving through impossible angles, threading paths that shouldn't exist. 30 seconds to detonation, Zara announced. Calm, steady, ready. The tendrils caught them. Unity shuddered, held fast in a grip that could unmake reality. The crystalline transformation spread faster, consuming systems, reaching for the crew. 20 seconds. Derek felt Zara's hand find his, their fingers intertwined. Human and Kryn, enemies who became something greater. If there's an afterlife, Derek said, I'll see you there. If there is not, then we will make one together. 10 seconds. The structure pulled them inward, drawing them toward its incomprehensible heart, exactly where they needed to be. 5. Derek looked at his crew, at faces human and alien, all wearing the same expression, not fear, not resignation. Defiance, the refusal to go quietly into the dark. 4. He thought of his brother, of every pilot who died so others could live, of the future that Unity represented, built on sacrifice and impossible hope. 3. Zara's grip tightened. It has been an honor, Derek Hayes. 2. The honor was mine, Zara. All mine. 1. Unity's reactor achieved critical mass at the exact center of the entity's structure. For one infinite instant, Derek felt reality tear itself apart, felt the ship become energy, become light, become something beyond description. Then nothing. The shock wave was visible from 3 systems away. Where the entity had existed, now there was only expanding plasma and the fading echo of something vast being unmade. 17 hours later, a joint human-Kryn rescue fleet arrived at the coordinates. They found wreckage, debris, no survivors. But they also found the entity's remains, scattered and inert, dead, destroyed by a crew that chose to burn rather than retreat. Admiral Grant stood on the bridge of her flagship watching the recovery efforts. Beside her, a Kryn admiral named Korath observed with silent respect. They did it, Grant said quietly. Those magnificent fools actually did it. They proved what we were too blind to see, Korath replied, that together we are stronger than anything the universe can create to destroy us. Hayes would have made some joke about that, something irreverent and human, and Commander Zara would have agreed while pretending not to find it amusing. Korath's expression shifted into something almost like a smile. They will be remembered, both species, as the ones who showed us the way forward. Grant nodded. The treaty will be signed within the month. Our peoples will fight together now, explore together, build together. He looked at the debris field. Because 2 warriors chose love over hate. Because they proved that bridges are stronger than walls. In the wreckage, among twisted metal and shattered dreams, they found one intact object, a data core, damaged but recoverable. Inside was a message, recorded in the final seconds before detonation. Derek's voice, steady and clear. To whoever finds this, we chose this, all of us. Because some things are worth dying for. Peace between our peoples. A future where the next generation doesn't inherit our wars. The chance to prove that even enemies can become family when they fight for something greater than themselves. A pause. Then Zara's voice joined his. We do not regret this choice. We regret only that we will not see what you build with the peace we purchase. Make it worthy of the price. Make it magnificent. Their voices together, human and Kryn, speaking in unison. Make it worth the sacrifice. Make it everything we died believing it could be. The recording ended. The treaty was signed 3 weeks later. The first joint colony was established within the year. The first mixed-species children were born a generation after that. And in every human Kryn outpost across the galaxy, in every ship that bore crews of both species, there hung a memorial. 2 names, 2 warriors, 2 lovers who flew into darkness so others could live in light. Derek Hayes and Commander Zara, the first of the bonded, the beginning of everything that came after. They called it the Unity Sacrifice, the moment when humanity and the Kryn stopped being enemies and started being something greater. It began with a pilot who refused to die and a warrior who chose to live. It ended with both of them proving that love, in all its forms, was the strongest force in the universe. And the galaxy burned